Okay, so I'm going to move on to something else with sticking with materials and texturing. So what I'm going to do now is I've just, in my material editor, you'll notice I've just made a second material, which is like a wooden one. The idea is I just want to make like a wooden little floor down here, um, ready for something else that we're going to do after that. So what I'm going to do is I'll just make like a big sort of box, which is just low down. So imagine this is like just a wooden bit of wooden flooring. Okay, so I've got my box, go to the material editor, select the material I want, which is that one, and then up here, apply that to selection. I can see it's applied. So here's my wooden floor, but first thing I've noticed straight away is that it's not looking the way that I want it. I want those planks of wood to go this way, and they look like they're too large, and the scale doesn't quite add up. So to help us with scale, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a teapot on the surface of this floor, maybe about that size. Okay, so maybe the boards, maybe scaling could be right, but either way, it's not the right way around. So how do we fix that? All right, so go to our materials. We've got our material applied. So if we go to our actual, well, actually double click this so that you've got your material parameters, and you'll see you've got like a trail around this so that we know this is the one that we have selected. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into the maps and into our channels here, and you can see in diffuse color I've got that image that I imported. If I click that, um, you'll notice that I have lots of settings here. So one of them, if I move that to the side, is called tiling. Tiling is like repeating the image over and over again. So if I up that to like 3, and 3 on that again, see it's a lot smaller, those planks, because that image is being repeated so many times. Okay, so the lower that tiling number is, the less it's going to be repeated, and the larger the image is going to be. Okay, so that can certainly help you when it comes to scaling. Now the angle, so I want mine to be 90 degrees, just rotated 90 degrees. Okay, so I believe it's going to be you. Let's just test that. So put 90 in there because this is the degrees it's going to turn it. So put 90 there. Oh, I can see that's not the right one. So put that back to 0. Possibly V. No, it's not V. Must be W. 90. Okay, there we go. So that's rotated at 90 degrees, and I can see that those sort of wooden boards are going the way that I wanted them to. Okay, that's all good. But the issue that you've got there now is that with all of these all need to match every image that you've got. So I may have changed the tiling here and I've changed the angle, but that's only in this one that I've got selected. Okay, you can see it's selected because it's got that trail around it. I want to do the same thing for this. So I'm going to double click that one. It was in W, change that to 90 as well. This one, double click that, change that to 90. And if you have changed the tiling or anything else, then change those as well. And also this one, anything that's assigned to it needs to match. Otherwise, remember that what we talked about over here with the detailing that it adds in from the other textures, if they're wrong or they're not matched up, it's not going to match up to the material, so it's going to look all wrong. Okay, so let's put my high quality back on. Let it calculate itself. If you've got a faster machine than mine, which you probably do, then this process will be a lot quicker. Particularly if you've got a nice dedicated graphics card. On the machine I'm using at the moment, it just has integrated Intel graphics, so hence why it takes so long to calculate that. Taking forever. Here we go. Okay. So that's fine. So that's how you can sort of change the angle and the tiling of materials as well to match the kind of scale that you want. Now I'm just going to get rid of this. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to make this more central. Let's go back to standard. What I want to do now is I want to make a metallic material so that this teapot, we can make it look like it's metal. So in order to do that, I'm going to build a material from scratch this time rather than the way I've been doing it before. So just going to find an empty space here, down here, drag in another standard material. Okay, so I'm not going to use this metal, so I don't need like an actual texture, like something that looks like something. I just want a basic color. So let's double click this one. Diffuse, it's going to be metal, but it's going to be a colored metal. So I'm going to make it kind of a dark blue. That'll be fine. I'm going to select my teapot and apply that to the teapot. Now I'm going to come to maps again. What we're going to look at this time is this specular level, first of all, which you can actually edit a bit better here. So see, you've got specular highlights. If I up the specular level, then this little graph, you get that curve up there. Now, see what's happening in the preview up here? As I change that, it's like the shininess of the material, and whether it's kind of a more of a matte finish or more of a high glossy finish. Okay, so that's all just whatever you want. So it's metal, so it's probably going to be something like that. Okay, so if I look at my teapot here, I'm just going to turn off edge faces actually so I can see it a bit better. I can see that shine there. You've got some weird clipping going on at the top there. So what I'm just going to do is tick this thing that says makes it two-sided. Still doesn't get rid of the clipping, but it's a pre-made teapot, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. Not for now anyway. So that's two-sided. So two-sided basically means that the material will be on the outside of the shape and it will also repeat on the inside of the model as well. What I want to do, so if this was really like metallic, it wouldn't just be shiny, it would be reflective. So I'm going to make this reflective, but so we have a channel here for reflection. If we just turned reflection on, at the moment it doesn't really have anything to reflect, it's just in this empty world. Okay, apart from it will reflect the floor, but then it will just reflect darkness around it, which isn't really going to look very good. It's just going to reflect just blackness. So we need to simulate the reflection. Okay, now you may have noticed earlier on in the previous video that in my folder, my desktop, this here, it's things called HDRI. Now this is a HDRI image. So if I just do a Google search for HDRI image, you'll see what I'm talking about when it eventually loads. So just go to images. And they are the type of images that are like, they're like an unfolded sphere. Okay, so if you just, this will be what it's reflecting. So find something that's relevant to you, and download it. I downloaded this one. Okay, so it's just kind of reflecting like a random room. All right, and that's what we're going to plug into the reflection channel. So drag out from there, general, bitmap. There's our HDRI. There we go. Okay, bear in mind, remember, we want to select this and make it visible in the viewport. So I want to turn that on, and then it goes red and blue. So at the moment, I still can't see that. I think I probably need to have it on high quality again. It's going to take its time. Right, there we go. So immediately I can see the reflection there, but that reflection is way too high. That's like super duper reflective. I mean, you might have a piece of metal that looked like that, but for this teapot, I think that's way too much. So I'm going to come back in here again. And I'm going to go into, make sure I've got this selected, I do. So remember when we were looking at the bump and we were affecting this level, same thing for reflection. 100 is like that, it's 100% reflective. I don't want that. I want to turn that down to about 10% probably. And there you can see that's a lot more subtle, the reflection. And when the shadows load in, which they just about did there, it looks quite nice. Okay, so if I just sort of zoom out a bit, turn the grid off, and just let the shadows come in, you know, it starts to look quite good. That the teapot now looks like it's made out of metal. I can see it's reflecting something. It almost doesn't really matter. You don't really notice that all this stuff that it's reflecting isn't in the scene here. You just generally, unless you're really noticing it, you kind of just think, okay, it's reflective. You don't think, wait a minute, that's not reflecting what's in the room there. But it can do. It depends on how much reflection you're using, so just kind of be careful. Obviously, if you had a big 3D room already set up and made, then you wouldn't need to simulate the reflection. You would just turn reflection on by just ticking that and not having anything in here, and then it would reflect what's actually around it. That's just simulated. So yeah, that's part 2 of materials. Okay, so make sure you've had a good play around with that and you familiarize yourself with it before moving on.